What is going on, Earth 2 novice, enthusiasts, and everyone in between? Thank you for joining me for another episode. I wanted to do a little bit more of a deep dive and some walkthroughs for the benefits of anybody who's either new to Earth 2 or maybe you haven't been playing around with Earth 2 recently. There have been a lot of developments, and I'm going to walk through a few here. First, let me switch over, transition to my screen so you can see what I'm seeing. And the first thing you're going to see now when you log in, and I mentioned this in a previous video, I do a lot better job explaining it, so check out that video. But they've now switched to having two tiers of land. And basically everything that was purchased previous to the launch of Tier 2 is going to be considered Tier 1. And this doesn't affect the land class, but that's going to be Tier 1 land, and now we've got Tier 2 land. What that's done is it's reset the pricing, which, as I mentioned in another video, makes this a great opportunity to get into Earth 2. Why? Well, now we've already seen a year of people purchasing land, and all the hotspots got bought up, but we also saw a lot of the collaborative cities also started to get planned out, and some of them were, and a lot of them actually were started in areas where there's really nothing going on. They're in the middle of fields and deserts and things like that because they wanted people that were people who were just in that private group, and there's dozens of them, but people who were just in those private groups decided they wanted to buy land together without any strangers. So obviously, if they're trying to buy land in the middle of Manhattan, it's being bought up very quickly, and there's a whole bunch of strangers kind of messing up their design. And I'll do another video going through the mega cities, some of the ones I'm involved in and have bought land in. Some of them have amazing designs. It was very artistic and very well done. And it's a collaboration between a bunch of people, and they have these amazing designs in these cities. And I think these cities are going to be their own hotspots as Earth 2 reaches its, crawls out of infancy and really starts hitting its full stride, which is still ways off. So there's still a ton of opportunity. But as I mentioned before, this is an amazing opportunity in and of itself, probably the best and maybe even arguably a better opportunity than back in 2020, in the beginning of 2021, because now we're starting to see where the hotspots are. And especially if you want to be a part of these cities where we've already got a collaborative mindset going on, you can now see where these cities have been built, and then you can buy strategically around those cities because they will probably come together and bring a lot more interest and concise thought to the development of those areas, whereas I mentioned before, Manhattan was just a land grab. It's a bunch of strangers buying up plots of land, and they're probably not going to be able to come together or even get in contact with each other to come together and make a well-designed city. Whereas if you go to these mega cities that have been created, you will be, if you wanted to, you can be a part of something that is going to have a much stronger community sense and vibe. They've got their own Discords and private channels. But in any case, buying the Tier 2 land, the advantage is it's reset the pricing. So now all the prices went back down to 10%. Most of them have, or 10 cents, I should say, went back down to the default price of 10 cents. So some of them were over $100. And now the Tier 2 land is in that same area, is being sold from Earth 2 on the primary marketplace, not even really the marketplace, but primary purchasing just from Earth 2 will allow you to get a much cheaper land value. You can still go to the secondary market and purchase privately, but now everything that you're buying from Earth 2 is going to be Tier 2, reset price, much more affordable, and this is going to entice a lot of other people, hopefully you, to continue to invest, and newcomers to make their initial investments with a much more affordable land. And this is really going to be something that's about community and involvement, and continuing to have more and more people join the project, not only from a staff position, but also from a user and investor position. So again, this notice is going to pop up. All tiles are now divided into Tier 1 and Tier 2 classifications. All tiles available for purchase from Tier 2, as I mentioned, are hereby classified as Tier 2 tiles. And I do anticipate there will eventually be a Tier 3, but I think it is probably going to be a ways off, depending on how much interest there is buying up these lands and driving up the prices, as we saw over the last year. Please be aware that the different tiers come with different functions for in-game and the E2 metaverse. You can learn more about Tier 1 and Tier 2 here, which we won't go into right now, but we're going to click Okay, now when you go to purchase things, you will be able to see, like if you go to the secondary market, you can use the filters to differentiate between tier 1 and tier 2 in case you want to pick up some tier 2 land. But right now I think the big opportunity is picking up tier 2 land because it is pretty cheap. Now one thing that's cool, and this is a development over the last year, is thanks to Mapbox, which is one of their partnerships, we can now see a heat map. So the heat map will show us where the hotspots are, where the popular areas of recent purchases are. So as you can see, as we zoom out, we get an idea as to where it might be nice for us to purchase some land, because when we see hotspots, it's a popular area for whatever reason, and this is particularly useful if you're buying in a foreign country. You're not familiar with where the hotspots and interest in that country is. So this will allow you to, as you can see, New York is glowing like it's radioactive. Toronto, another big city, glowing, radioactive. But you can see all these other little hot spots, whereas when you zoom out like this, if you're still able to see it, there's going to be some interest there, and that might be a mega city that a community has a lot of involvement and interest in, or it might just be, in the real world, a really popular city. You can also go to the 3D mode, and you can start seeing some of the hollow buildings, which I mentioned in another video, and I'll probably do a video walking you through how to build with the hollow buildings. And you can also see areas based on their prices. So what's cool about that is, depending upon how much you want to spend, this gives you a nice little indicator of where you should be looking. If you're trying to get the best bang for your buck, this would be a great filter for you to use, because it lets you kind of fast forward to those areas where your dollar is going to go a bit further. Of course, they've got the satellite map and the other map, which they had before, and the 3D map is mainly for looking at buildings. As you may or may not be aware, all of the man-made structures, save for a few special landmarks, are going to be completely wiped out of Earth 2. And I think by landmarks, they probably mean, I would assume like dams maybe would, if there's the Hoover Dam, that is a foundational change in the landscape and the topography. There's a great body of water on one side of the Hoover Dam because it's there. So I think to make the topography and the water and everything work in Earth 2, I think things like that will probably stay. And they also mentioned, it seems like some monuments and maybe like a man-made island, those are going to have to stay, just because it's going to make too much of an incongruency between the Earth 2 map and the real world map and what everybody's purchasing right now, going off of what's basically like a hyped up Google map. So there will be some man-made structures left, but assume that all roads and buildings and everything else are going to be gone, which is where the hollow buildings come into play, because now that you've got basically a clean canvas where your land is, even if you bought it in the middle of Manhattan, there's going to be nothing there when it reaches the later phases. You're going to be able to build your building, or possibly purchase another blueprint or building from a third-party developer, and I mentioned that in another video, and place that there. Now, another thing I wanted to show in this video was the resources. Now, resources aren't live yet, but as I mentioned previously in my last video, each day you're going to be getting essence or ether, which you turn into essence, as well as jewels. Now, these are the jewels that I've collected in just the last few hours, because I checked it, I believe, earlier, probably about 12 hours ago. And each day you get more and more jewels being rendered. Each of these jewels, once you slot them, will give your land a certain increase of production. So I'm going to claim all of these, and then I'll show you a little bit more to the whole jewel game. So as you can see right here, the blue jewel is going to, this tells me where it was discovered. These are, one of my properties, when it was discovered, and then you can see there, it also says that it will increase freshwater production by 0.51%. And these are all, this one's 0.5%, this one's going to increase it by 0.5%, this one increases by 0.51%, but they're all about the same. Now we can go to where that comes into play is slotting. Now I can pick my properties. Based on the size of the property, I have a certain amount of jewel slots, and by putting those jewels in that slot, it will increase the amount of resources being produced there, and as well as essence. Some of the jewels can increase the production of multiple resources, as well as essence. And I keep saying essence, I mean ether. Ether is turned into essence. So if I say one or the other, they're basically synonymous. So as you can see, different sizes of land have different amounts of jewels, and I've got some jewels slotted already. Now this is a luminous small crafted sunrise jewel. This is actually a combination of 3 jewels that I shattered, combined together, 3 different colored jewels, and what they do together is this one will increase the freshwater production as well as the iron ore production. So 2 resources that are going to be increased, as well as it detects 2 additional ether per day. So again, going back to the ether, if you're not familiar and you haven't seen my other video, ether gets turned into essence. Essence is kind of like a gas fee, where it's not really a currency, but it's something that you use in combination of a resource for production. It's kind of like the payment for work, or a transaction fee. So let's say you want to have something built, and it requires wood and iron as resources to have this structure built, whatever it is. Let's say it's a wagon, hypothetically, and the resources aren't even available, so these are completely hypothetical situations. But let's say you want to build a wagon. The wagon takes wood and iron. You have to provide the resources, the wood and the iron, whether you buy it or you're getting it from your properties, rendering it from your properties, plus some essence to transform the wood and iron into the wagon. So it's kind of like the payment for the work being done. If you're familiar with trading cryptocurrency or playing with NFTs, you're very familiar with gas fees, and gas fees are the same. It's not necessarily the cryptocurrency, but it's kind of like a derivative of some form of value that is exchanged as a reward for that work being done. With cryptocurrency, it's basically the miners or the node work to adhere those things to the ledger, or enter those things into the ledger, or have an NFT minted. The gas fee for this is then going to be essence. So again, you convert ether to essence. Ether is detected on each of your properties daily. The bigger your properties, the more properties you have, the more ether you're going to get daily, along with jewels. So ether and jewels are currently being collected on the properties, and in the future it's going to translate to resources, which is where we go back to the jewels being rendered. So now that's slotting. So as you can see, this property has 3 slots. Let's see if I have some bigger properties. You get the point though. The bigger the property, the more slots you're going to have. Let me see if I could do it by tiles. Yes. So let's see some of the bigger properties, and you'll see, and I'm imagining that in the future we're also going to be able to extend the amount of slots. All right, so here's some slightly larger, just so you can see more slots, but I think you get the point, and you take my word for it. Now you can do a combination of jewels. As you can see with this one, I've got a luminous small crafted sunrise jewel, which again is one that's a combination of 3 jewels, as well as a single jewel, which is this single jewel is one of the black jewels, and this increases my coal and oil production. So this is where you would craft your jewels, and again, you can do a few different things. You can either use those individual jewels, or like I said, you can smash them and combine them together. As you combine them blindly, you're able to unlock different recipes, and I'll do a video specifically on that potentially in the future. But you can also look up the different recipes. People already figured out all of them, and they're out there. But as you can see, this to make an orange, you need a gray and a yellow. To make the small sunrise jewel, takes a blue, a gray, and a red. To make a small sunset, it takes an orange, a purple, and a yellow. So you can see these different combinations of jewels that you're able to make. The Jamaica jewel, I've got quite a few of those. That's black, green, and yellow. Now there is a confusion. I might be looking at the colors wrong, because there's yellow and sand color, I believe. So now whether you want to make these jewels to slot yourself, or if you can also, another really interesting option is you can sell them. Go up here to the bazaar. So right now I'm in the storage section. Go up here to the bazaar, And now these are all the jewels being sold. So these jewels right now, these are the sandy jewels. As I mentioned, they're yellow color, but they do have different attributes than the yellow jewels. But to give you an idea as to ones that I was selling and making a good amount of money, like I said, I made several $100 doing this. I just haven't been doing it because the price dropped. But if you want to make some extra money and you've got the time, it takes like 10 minutes. And yeah, see, I was selling these for $3 a piece. It's obviously the prices dropped just because people are undercutting and more people have gotten wise to it. But like I said, I made several $100, and all I would do is combine 3 jewels, and then I'd go and I'd list them for sale, and I would, just have them competitively priced. And you could go in and buy these yourself if you wanted to. Like if you don't have a lot of land, or if your land isn't producing the jewels that you want, you can go on here and you can buy these that are already done. You can also, once you have a crafted jewel, you can also increase the value and the kind of power of that jewel, for lack of a better term, by increasing the luminosity. So you could invest more essence into that jewel, and it would go from small cracked, which is like the lowest level, or common, which is the lowest level, to increase it to a luminous, which I think you saw slotted in some of my properties. I had some luminous level jewels. So yeah, this one, luminous, which is the highest level, and that gives you the most production. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, as you can see, I only have 3 slots available. And if I want to really maximize the amount of production, let's say standard is 0.5% boost. So putting 3 slots in there would bring me to 1.5% boost. Whereas with this one, if I invest more essence in there, since I don't have any other slots to use, I want to maximize the power of the jewels that are in those slots. I bump them up to 1.16 for all 3 of these. So that's going to give me a significantly higher rendering or yield of the resources that are being produced. The essence, as you can see, is still just an additional 2 ether per day. No big deal. I still have thousands and thousands of essence that I've got in my bank anyways, because I haven't done a great deal of production or building. But I do anticipate that as we get into unlocking these other ones, as you can see, building blocks, which hasn't been unlocked, blueprints, which hasn't been unlocked, and raw materials, I think this is where we're going to be able to start building actual buildings. I think the hollow buildings are kind of just like a bookmark right now. It gives us an idea as to what we're going to be able to build and structures that we can build. But I think when we actually get down to the materials used to build these buildings, we'll be able to buy and sell blueprints on a secondary market, possibly through the bazaar or something similar, and then also build out of different materials, which will probably give the buildings different structural integrities and aesthetic, value, and all sorts of other stuff. And who knows what else. I think teleporters and all sorts of other things will probably require resources and essence and a combination of all sorts of different things in order to get them. So it's really interesting to see all these different economies that you can already see roadmap. On top of this, as I've mentioned, I've already seen in Decentraland, you can buy shoes and art and different types of NFTs to showcase in your metaverse properties. So I'm really excited to see what else we're able to do as we get to the later phases in Earth2. But again, I want to remind you guys, especially if you're new, please use my referral code. I do weekly giveaways. All you have to do is use my referral code. When you make a purchase, you get 5% back. I get 5% back. I use that 5% to purchase properties that I then give away. So you could end up getting a guaranteed 5% by using my referral code. But also, if you enter the raffle, then weekly, you have the potential of winning some free land from me. So I give away everything from that account. That referral code goes specifically to that account. That all the purchases I make there are just used to do the giveaways. So if you want to get some free land and you're going to be purchasing land anyways, might as well use my referral code, and you have the potential of getting some land. And I haven't figured out a way to communicate fast enough to buy land that you want to buy. So it's going to be a grab bag, but I do make, every time I make a purchase, it's not just some BS piece of land. I always try to buy strategically. So if I do give you some land, when you do give some land, I've seen a lot of you guys have mentioned that you end up buying more land in that area because I either buy up like a gold mine, a diamond mine, I buy something by a mega city, I buy something by a highly trafficked area that a lot of people haven't thought of. Like I was buying up a lot of land in Minsk, and a lot of people are really happy with that because that has gone up in value pretty, not anywhere on the level of like Manhattan, but it's definitely increased because Minsk is a capital city there in Belarus. But in any case, I hope you guys have an amazing day, amazing week. Thank you for tuning in again. Make sure you're subscribed not only to this channel, my other channel. Check out the links in the notes below for giveaways and more information and more videos and all sorts of other stuff. And I hope you have fun investing in Earth 2.